The mist hangs heavy over the river valley, thick as a burial cloth pulled tight across the dawn. At first, you don't see them. You hear them. A low, steady rumble. Boots grinding into wet earth, thousands of them, each step crushing dew from the grass like a warning. Then comes the smell. Iron, sweat, leather soaked through and never dried. The faint, sour rot trailing behind an army that never truly stops moving. Your breath catches as shapes begin to form inside the fog. Not men, not really. Shadows with edges that glint. Shields locked together into a wall that swallows the light itself. They're coming for the hill fort. Your hill fort. Inside, the thatched roofs huddle beneath the ramparts like frightened children. Smoke curls lazily from hearth fires where women stir porridge, their voices weaving old mourning songs, songs older than stone itself. But the singing falters. A horn cuts through the air, deep, guttural, like an axe splitting bone. The shadows pause, then surge. Spears rise, a forest of thorns, and in that single frozen heartbeat, before the screams take everything, you see her, a girl on the palisade, hair wild like the gorse below, a sling in her hand, hands too small for what's coming. She doesn't run. She loads a stone, but the machine doesn't care about stones. It keeps moving, and what it takes next isn't just land. It's bloodlines, it's futures. It's 20,000 daughters like her, scattered across the valleys of the Silures, names Rome never bothered to remember. Because erasure was the point. What you're about to hear isn't just war. It's something colder, more deliberate. A system of violence woven into the fabric of empire itself. These events come from ancient accounts, and from bones still unearthed in Welsh soil today. They're real, and they're raw. If this hits too close, step away. There's no shame in that. But if you stay, then let's uncover how Rome didn't just conquer a people, it dismantled their tomorrow. Imagine a world where the sea is a hungry god, where waves gnaw at cliffs guarding secrets older than salt. It's the spring of what we now call the year 43. But out here, in the green-veined hills of ancient Wales, time doesn't belong to Rome. It bends instead to tides, to ravens, to the slow rhythm of the land. Across the narrow channel, an empire breathes. Rome, a beast of marble and iron, its veins pulse with the blood of 1,000,000 souls, from Gaul to the Nile. It devours land like bread, leaving roads and aqueducts in its wake. On the surface, emperors rule. But real power hums deeper, in shadowed halls where senators scheme and generals sharpen steel. Claudius sits on the throne now, a man marked by a limp and driven by a hunger for glory his body cannot chase. And just beyond the sea, Britain, a prize waiting in the mist, a land of tribes and torques, of druids whispering to sacred oaks, of chariots carving scars into chalk hills. Rome has come before. A century earlier, Caesar tested these shores, left wounds, but no chains. This time will be different. This time, it's an invasion. Not just for gold, though the tin mines gleam like promises. No, it's about the map, filling in the blank spaces, proving the gods favor the eagle. So the machine begins to turn. In the ports of Gaul, 4 legions gather. 20,000 legionaries hardened by sun and frost. They board flat-bottomed ships that rock under the weight of conquest. Auxiliaries swell their ranks. Slingers from the Balearics, archers from Syria, Batavian warriors who swim rivers like fish. They cross beneath a bruised purple sky and land on the pebble beaches of Kent. The tribes are waiting, spears raised, fury burning, but this isn't a raid, it's a flood, and floods don't negotiate. They overwhelm. The tribes fracture. The Trinovantes fall. The Catavellauni break. Kings surrender or flee west. By summer's end, the South bends the knee. Colchester rises, a colonia. Veteran soldiers turned farmers, claiming land with plow and sword. But the West still has teeth. That's where he enters the story. Vespasian, Titus Flavius Vespasianus, a name that grinds like gravel under a soldier's boot. He wasn't born into marble halls, no golden lineage, just the son of a tax collector from the Sabine Hills. He climbed through sweat, not silver. By his 30s, he commands the Second Augusta, a legion forged in the mud of Germania. He's not the polished statue history would later carve. He's stocky, already balding, eyes sharp, always watching. And a laugh, harsh, braying, like a mule that's seen too much. At 40, he joins the invasion under Aulus Plautius, who's already secured the east with cautious precision. Vespasian is sent southwest, Dorset, the Isle of Wight, wind-lashed coasts and chalk hills. His orders are simple: break them. And he does. Hill forts fall one by one. Maiden Castle, strongholds where warriors stand painted and defiant, their ramparts slick with rain and blood. The air fills with slingstones, and Pila Roman javelins that punch through shields and flesh alike. Vespasian leads from the front. His vine staff cracks commands. His sword answers resistance. 30 hill forts fall that year, if the reports are to be believed. Bodies pile in ditches. Ravens feast. Victory comes fast, but it doesn't last. Because from the east, whispers begin to drift. The Silures are stirring. The Silures were not a single clan. They were something harder to break. A confederation of blood and oath stretching across southeast Wales, from the mouth of the Severn to the bends of the Usk. A land of limestone ridges, hidden valleys, dark forests and rivers that seem to carry secrets in their current. Tacitus, writing years later, would describe them as fierce-faced, curly-haired, stubborn beyond reason. A people with fire in them. The kind that does not go out easily. They lived in roundhouses perched on high ground, connected by winding tracks and sacred springs. Their chiefs wore torques of twisted gold. Their druids read futures in smoke and entrails. Their warriors rode ponies small as wolves and fast as the wind. And woven through all of it, through every alliance, every feast, every promise made by firelight, were their daughters. Girls who learned the loom and the lament. Girls who would one day marry into neighboring clans, bind old rivalries, carry songs across generations, and give the tribe its future. Rome saw only a problem, not scattered raiders, not a nuisance, a system of resistance, organized, allied with the Ordovices to the north, familiar with every ridge, marsh, and river crossing, dangerous in the way the empire feared most, not because they were stronger, but because they were rooted. By the year 47, Vespasian had pushed deeper into the west. His men had hacked through Devon's bogs and burned steadings that clung to the hills like defiant stars. Veterans of the Rhine grumbled under endless rain and green wilderness that swallowed roads whole. But Vespasian kept driving them forward, build the camps, dig the ditches, watch the tree line. He understood the machine better than most. Conquest wasn't only about killing. It was about ripping out roots, splitting families, turning tomorrow into inventory. That logic hadn't begun in Britain. It had been forged earlier in harder places, in the rough countryside of Falkirk, where his father counted coins and his mother fed him stories of old equestrian pride. Vespasian learned young that power wasn't handed to you. It was taken. At 20, he served as tribune in Thrace, hunting bandits through mountain passes. There he learned the taste of command. Villages burned when they sheltered enemies. Men were cut down not for glory, but because they were in the way. Later, in Africa, he worked the machinery from another angle: tax collection, ledgers instead of swords. But the lesson was the same. He watched whole communities starve rather than pay late. Necessary, his superiors called it. Necessary, that word hardened him. By the time he stood on a ship bound for Britain in the spring of 43, wind tearing at his cloak, he already knew what empire required. Not just courage, not just violence, distance. He told himself he fought for legacy, for his sons waiting in Rome, Titus, still a boy, and baby Domitian. He would carve their future out of conquest, but buried deeper than ambition was another belief. Mercy weakens the chain, and if the chain weakens, the empire bleeds. So when scouts returned in the late summer of 47, dragging a bloodied Silurian warrior behind them, Vespasian listened carefully. The man's tattoos twisted over his arms like serpents. He spat in the dirt and gave one message before the guards beat him silent. Caratacus sends greetings. That name mattered. Caratacus, the Cativalonian prince who had resisted Rome in the east, survived defeat and fled west to stir rebellion again. Not broken, not finished. A man with enough fire left in him to turn defeat into fuel. Now he was rallying the tribes of Wales. Rome takes, he told them, but we remember. Vespasian read the report by lamplight while wax dripped down the scroll like tears. If the Silures held, if Caratacus turned them into a true Western coalition, then Rome's advance stalled. The whole machine jammed in the mud, so he made his decision. No more probing raids, no more testing the edges. The valley would burn. Dawn came cold over the river, silver and silent, winding through oak trees draped in moss. It was early autumn. Leaves had turned gold, like scattered torques in the grass. Smoke rose from the roundhouses that crowned the hill fort of Lanmelin, where generations had carved ramparts with their own hands. Below, sheep grazed the slopes. Women worked wool-dyed woad blue. Children splashed through the shallows, and among them moved Leora. 19 summers old, daughter of the chieftain Udaf. She wasn't fragile. Her hands were rough from sling practice. Her eyes were green as the hills. Her braid was threaded with feathers from the sacred eagle. By day, she tended herbs in the grove, whispering prayers for strength. By night, she dreamed of a marriage alliance with the Demetai. Songs, feasts, a future stitched together through kinship. Her mother called her the tribe's bright thread, because Leora did more than weave cloth. She helped weave what came next. The warning arrived at midday. Riders from the east, cloaks torn, horses lathered. "Romans," they gasped. "Vespasian's eagles!" The fort came alive all at once. Horns sounded. Men seized spears from the walls. Women rushed children toward the inner yard. Leora froze at her loom, shuttle still in hand. Then she ran for the palisade. From the top of the rampart, the valley stretched wide and green, a cradle that had always felt untouchable, until now. At first it was just dust on the horizon. Then the sound followed. A low, rising thunder. Not chaos, not a charge. Something worse. Order. The Roman line advanced like a living machine, shields locked, banners snapping in the wind, the wolf of the Second Augusta marking their path. Skirmishers spread ahead. Cohorts moved in blocks. Engineers followed, already preparing tools for siege. They didn't rush. They calculated, probe, encircle, starve. Leora felt the tension tighten in her chest, like a drawn bowstring. Hours passed. The sun drifted lazily overhead, while Roman horns called out signals across the field. Small, probing attacks tested the defenses. Arrows arced upward like questions waiting for answers. Leora answered. Her first stone flew clean and true. A Roman scout dropped without a sound. Cheers rippled along the wall, but her father didn't smile. His face stayed hard, eyes fixed on the slow, inevitable advance. By dusk, Roman fires dotted the valley below like fallen stars. Then came the rider, under truce. Terms were simple: surrender the fort, pay tribute, swear loyalty to Caesar. Udaf laughed from the gate, bitter and sharp. "We bend to no eagle." The rider turned without another word. Night settled heavy over the hill. Owls called from the trees. The river whispered. Leora slept, but not deeply. Her dreams were tangled, feathers unraveling in her hands. And before dawn, the machine moved. No signal, no warning. Ladders slammed into the earth. Hooks tore at the palisade. Arrows darkened the sky. The first breach came fast. Romans poured through like ink spilling across parchment. Everything dissolved into noise. Steel striking wood. Shields crashing. Men screaming in two languages that collided and shattered in the air. Leora's world shrank to the space in front of her. Her sling was empty. She grabbed a fallen knife and lunged, slashing at a Roman leg. Blood sprayed hot across her hands. Somewhere nearby, her father fell. A pila drove through him, pinning him to the ground. His torque caught the light once, then dulled. She tried to reach him. She never made it. Hands seized her from behind. Rough, crushing, a smell of garlic and sweat. A blow exploded across her vision, and everything went black. When she woke, the world had changed. The fort was gone. In its place, smoke. The valley was choked with it. Bodies lay scattered across the slopes. Men of the Silures cut down where they stood. Blood seeped into the earth they had farmed. The living had been gathered. Women, children. Leora's wrists were bound, raw from rope, her braid half undone, her knife gone. Around her, Romans worked with cold efficiency. Not rage, not frenzy, process. They counted the dead, stripped torques and brooches, sorted the living. A tribune barked orders. Strong men, chained for the mines. Boys for the galleys, and the women. The sorting became quieter, crueler. Virgins and wives set aside for auction. Others marked for labor, or for something unspoken, but understood. Leora caught glimpses she couldn't hold on to. A girl dragged away, a cry cut short, not by death but by something slower, something that hollowed from the inside. This wasn't revenge. It was design. Vespasian watched from horseback, his face unreadable beneath the crest of his helmet. This was only the beginning. That season, 20 forts would fall, and with them, thousands of daughters, not killed, taken, because dead bodies don't serve the empire. But the living can be turned into currency, into labor, into silence. The roads filled with coffles, lines of captives bound together, moving east under guard. Leora walked among them. Songs replaced by cloth gags, names replaced by numbers. Some were sent to Londinium, into villas where they would scrub floors and tend fires that were not their own. Others were distributed to legionary camps, where winter nights were long and cold. The strongest, the youngest, the most defiant. They were sent farther, to Rome, to markets where buyers examined them like livestock, teeth, skin, hips, strength. Prices varied, value calculated, human lives reduced to entries on a ledger. Vespasian signed those ledgers, his hand steady. Duty, he told himself. The West must be secured. But sometimes, In the quiet moments by firelight, he remembered the eyes. Green, unbroken, until they weren't. He pushed the thought away. Mercy weakens the chain. So the chain held. But something unexpected began to happen. Whispers spread through the valleys. Survivors escaped. Women who slipped through the cracks of the machine, hiding in caves with infants pressed to their chests. The eagle takes our seeds, they said. Not just land lost. Lineage. A daughter taken did not marry within the tribe. Her children would not carry the old names, would not speak the old tongue. Rome didn't just conquer, it pruned. Men died in battle or were worked to death in mines. Boys bent under labor until their bodies broke. But the women, they carried the erasure forward. Forced unions, children born into a different world, identity diluted, then replaced. And yet, not all of them disappeared. Some resisted in ways the empire couldn't fully measure. Some fled, some fought, some chose the river over chains. Stories spread of river daughters, girls who walked into the Usk rather than be taken, their bodies washing downstream like quiet defiance. Years passed. The machine kept turning. Forts rose, roads cut across the land. Rome tightened its grip. Vespasian moved on, called east, rising higher, eventually claiming the throne itself. But his shadow remained. The system he built didn't stop with him. It refined itself, optimized, scaled, yet cracks began to show. Because in scattering the daughters, he hadn't erased them. He had spread them. Fragments survived. Memories survived. And sometimes, that's enough. Return now to that valley. The mist is gone. The hill fort has softened into earth and wildflowers. No shields, no horns, just wind moving through grass. But the ground remembers. Bones beneath the soil. Beads dropped mid-flight. Fragments of lives that refused to vanish completely. They were meant to disappear. 20,000 daughters swallowed by empire. But they didn't. Not entirely. Because you're here, listening, remembering. And that's where the machine fails. If this story stayed with you, if you felt the weight of it, leave a comment below. What's something history tried to erase but didn't? And if you want more stories like this, subscribe. Because some voices don't die. They just wait to be heard again.